Greetings, Unhidden Voices family, and welcome to episode 19. This episode is a real joy for me because I got a chance to interview Marvin Reed. Marvin actually is one of my mentees. I have known him for about 3 years. We met when in my, he was a teacher candidate in the multiple subjects programs, which means he was basically getting a credential to teach elementary school in Sacramento when I was a professor and he was in my class. Um, we have an assignment that students do where they conduct a long introduction and they talk about themselves and their experiences. And during Marvin's long introduction, he talked about his inability to find a master's thesis advisor for his master's project. So he was actually getting a master's degree at the same time that he was in the credential program, which is very rare at the time, was very rarely done at Sacramento State. So after hearing about his difficulty, I actually volunteered to become his thesis advisor. And as a result of that, we just became really close in terms of a mentor mentee relationship. Marvin is a third grade teacher in Berkeley Unified School District. He is the only Black male teacher in the elementary level in the entire district. And we talk about that. We also talk about voting and him teaching his students the importance of voting, and not only to vote, but how to do it. And that, I think, is really important because a lot of us don't know and didn't learn that. And so we talk about it, and it's really timely given that the election is happening very, very soon. So if you haven't already voted, please do that. Please make your voices heard and make a statement, and not just about the presidential election, but absolutely down ballot matters. We can see that because any of the, in terms of the Congress, there's a stalemate because you have the Senate is Republican led and the House is Democrat led, and so the two can't get anything done. And then there's a lot of propositions that matter and actually will impact your personal life in terms of resources. And so you need to learn about those and vote. Thank you for all of the support that you have offered. I really, really do appreciate it. Please comment on this episode. I do read the comments and I will respond to it. Also, if you like this episode, subscribe. I'm going to share any of your comments with Marvin, and he can then also share them with his third graders. So listen, learn, and amplify with them.
I just stayed here and lesson planned and did all my technology trainings or some for my district, the technology stuff, and just figuring out what's working for teachers, what's not working. And I reflected back on my feedback from the professional development from my segment. And I was just reporting back to the tech leaders of their schools. And a lot of teachers are feeling there needs to be more differentiation for training for teachers, because right now they're trying to give oh, here's Marvin doing all this stuff, but it's some teachers are past my level, some teachers are below. There needs to be differentiated to help people.
Okay, so wait, so you're jumping in, and
my bad. I mean,
so I'm recording this, and we're gonna start with a welcome, Marvin. I'm really glad to talk to you. And part of actually, I was listening to I listen to other podcasts to get ideas, and I was listening to Michelle Obama's podcast, and she interviewed her mentors, and she interviewed her mentees. And I thought, wow, that's such a great idea. So I was like, oh, and then we've been texting about Lovecraft Country. So I said,
yes,
I could interview you for the podcast. So thank you. Welcome. I'm so glad to talk to you. All right. So the first question is, tell us your name and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Marvin Reed, and currently I reside in the Bay Area. So it's funny, I came back to the Bay Area because before I was in Sacramento from 6th grade and on. So kind of I guess half Bay Area, half SAC native. And right now I teach third grade in Berkeley Unified School District. This is my third year, and third grade once again. And I am the equity teacher leader here at my school, and the tech teacher leader as of this year. So I'm in charge of making sure that it's interesting with equity and technology at my school, providing professional developments for teachers here. So yeah, I've been trying to just be careful not to take on too many positions. So just those two for now. Just
You're the only Black male teacher in
soon.
your.
What was that word you said?
I was like, professor.
Soon. Well, hopefully that'll be soon.
Okay. So let's start. I also want to just add, how do we know each other, Marvin?
Well, we know each other because you're my professor in the credential program. Oh, God, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago, and that was in the multiple subject. And you're also my thesis advisor for my master's. So we've come a long way, a long way. And you're still my mentor. I still look up to you. So hopefully my dream one day is to work alongside with you and to collaborate and figure out strat. That's my end goal. So eventually, hopefully I'll be able to work with you as a colleague.
So you're applying the doctoral programs.
Yes, I have one essay to revise right now. I have turned in everything else, so I'm good to go. But Lovecraft Country kind of distracted me. I have my draft done. I just need to look through it, mark it up, have people read over it, but everything else is in. So that's
okay. So wait, so we cannot move on without talking about Lovecraft Country. Okay.
She said, "Can you help me?" No, I'm not gonna help you.
So first of all, because I feel like we were talking and you hadn't seen the show.
Nope, I didn't know what it was, and as the trailers would start to pop up on Instagram and on Hulu and stuff. So I was starting to see little glimpses of it, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let me try this. Let me try this.
Yeah.
And I watched the first episode, and the opening scene was kind of like what is this? And then as I started to watch more, and just I just started to feel empowered. I've never seen such media or literature in that sense where I feel empowered with my people, the way that they dress, the way that they talk. And it's not from so much, yes, there's trauma in there, but it's not oh my God, this is terrible. Another person getting lynched. Oh, this one. It's we're powerful, we're smart, we're beautiful. That just every Sunday empowered me. Oh. And I wanted to keep watching. So I've never seen any media like that. I've never seen anything like that before.
And the ways in which, well, first of all, there were so many different Easter eggs hidden into it.
Yes.
It was so on so many levels. The characters were so well developed. They were flawed, but they were complex. And you find yourself rooting for people and then also hating them, what I mean, at the same hour, and I think the ways in which I love a period piece. A good period piece is always gonna, and so the clothes and the music was
yes
everything. And it's so funny because I keep trying to tell people, it's okay, it's HBO, so yes, there's goriness, there's gratuitous violence and sexuality because it's HBO.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're gonna just accept that because it's cable television. Okay. Mm-hmm. But get past that part and get to the writing.
Yes. And that's what it just reminded me of your class. It was all the speeches that you literally a soundtrack of a speech or something that matched that scene. And I'm just wow, this is so intellectual and so beautifully done in a way where it's oh my God, I want to do something. I want to learn more about this.
Motivated, right? Yes.
All the speeches.
A beautiful part. Okay, so the homage to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I feel I
got to me. And the thing is, I've never learned about that. I've never was taught that. We only know the roaring 20s. That's all that I know the 20s. I have never learned about. I had no idea what that was
Yeah.
until that episode,
So
and
you
I
didn't
just
know
broke
about Black
down.
Wall Street. Okay, so now I heard of Black Wall Street before, and actually, one of my mentors is this woman. Her name was Sister Demira, and she was one of the she started like the ethnic studies program at San Francisco State. She was like very active in like the 60s and in that movement. And then like I met her, she passed away like a few years ago. But she was like my mom's generation in there, and just an activist. Just I mean, her whole aura was just like these women that we see, like that was her, just that
Mm,
power and that just like the smoothness in her voice and just the way she carried herself was just like just a queen and regal and just powerful and beautiful everywhere and everything. But her family was from Tulsa.
oh wow.
From They lived, during the time of Black Wall Street. And I think she was either born like around that time or right after that time or something, but that was where they was from. So I knew that about her story. I had heard of different things, but as over time, it's like you're learning more, you know what I mean? And you're exposed to more of it. And so, and there, have you seen Watchmen? Yeah, I guess you didn't see Watchmen.
It's funny that literally Dr. Watson, she just told me, but she's like, have you watched? I was like, no, I'm trying to get these applications. And just like, all right, get back to work. So now I have to watch that.
Okay, yeah. So Watchmen was the first cinematic revealing of the Tulsa, the burning of Black Wall Street. But one of the things that happened was like I liked Watchmen. I liked it. I did like it. I tried to get my daughters to watch it with me, and from the very first show, like you could just see them murdering Black people, like from episode 1, and they were just like horrified. So
Mhm.
they actually refused. They were like, why are you making us watch, this? Like this is traumatizing for us. Like we're seeing like Black people being murdered like this. We don't want to watch this show. So they refused to watch the show. So they never watched the show.
Mm.
I was like, but the ways in which I feel like Montrose's his monologue when he was actually naming people who actually
Oh
died in real
yes,
life. You
yes.
know what
The
I mean?
building.
In the whole, I mean, it's just, well, I don't want to spoil it for any of you who haven't seen it yet, but I have to say, like, I've the ancestry, the beauty of the power in the relationships, even like the ways in which they honored Korea,
Oh yes.
so what Black womanhood, that episode where she the I am episode.
One of my favorites. One of my favorites.
Yeah, it's just every level. So okay, so we just had, I was like, we can't, we can't go on
It's like
without.
I see you citing a lot of Lovecraft in your essays lately. It's like, yes, I feel it's relevant. I think I can cite it. It's relevant.
But I was like, I'm so happy that I watched it, and I, kind of, because there was a couple of times when I was like with the Emmett Till piece, there was like a few times
Oh
where I was like,
yeah,
that was hard,
that
I
was rough.
push myself, push myself through. Okay, so let me ask you, how are you? Like, how are you doing?
I'm doing better. It's been let's say valleys and mountains, ups and downs. I
Mhm.
think if anything, I'm just really more tired
Yeah.
with all the zooming and try. I'm just tired. Like it's a good time. I guess it's a good tired. Like at the end of the day, when I feel like I've made a new connection with one of my kids, or they got something that they may have not gotten, or more kids are connected. Like today, I had my full class. So I was like, okay, that's a win for me because of a kid to have a hotspot. So he hasn't been able to get on for like 3 weeks,
Oh
and
my.
he's one of my focal students. I'm like, like you need to be here. So just to get
Right.
him
So
on.
when you say, I don't think people are going to know what you mean when you say your focal students.
So a focal student who is needing support, the student who is not at grade level, there seems to be needs that need to be met socially or academically or both. So they, in other words, they need to be with a teacher to get those skills, or at least close to getting to grade level standards. And the student, it wasn't his fault that he couldn't get on. It's just he'd have a hotspot, or I think they were using the mom was using their cellular data to get online, but it just something wasn't working anymore, and so they tried to go to our hotspot. We have a hub, like a spot where people can go for books and for, if they need a laptop. And unfortunately, because hotspots are in demand, like they didn't have anymore, so the kid had to wait. So he missed on a lot of school. So now that he's back on, it's my job to get him back in our community, get him back into our classroom community, and making him feel part again. So we're rebuilding right now, but I felt like a win today. Everybody was on, and we were building community, and that makes my day. But usually after going on with kids, then I have like meetings, and then after prep, I'm just tired.
Wow.
That's my thing. So I feel like if anything, instead of planning by the week, I plan day by day, because it keeps changing. Sometimes I'll have all my kids, and I'll be missing like 5. So I'm like, okay, well, I thought I was going to teach that, but okay, we're gonna do this instead. Or okay, oh, my kids look really tired today, so we're not gonna do math today. They're too tired. We'll do art today. So I have to like think in the moment and being responsive to them.
Yeah.
If it's a lot. I mean, yes, as a teacher in classroom, I was doing that, but now like you can totally tell. Like it's like light bulbs. Like the lights are like flickering, about to die out. I'm like, okay, I gotta figure out I gotta get them back. I gotta get them back. I'm losing them. So
Wait,
yeah.
so how do you, like, what is the plan? What is the plan? Like, are you going to go face to face, or are you doing hybrid at all, or is it all Zoom?
So right now, the plan is that they have, Alameda County, their rates are decreasing. Like the cases are being more controlled. They're low. So we've been sent surveys. Parents have also been sent surveys like, how do you feel going back in person? I'll be honest, like I've said, I don't feel comfortable without a vaccine. It's either all or nothing. And because I don't want to make more work for myself, where it's like, okay, I have 8 kids on the screen, 8 kids in the classroom, and they're like, okay, hold on real quick. I got to make sure I don't want to do that. So I said, until I have all my kids together in our community, I can't do it. So parents have also been
You're
informed.
Black. Like, you don't need to be, Black people are dying at twice the rate. So you don't need to be doing no face-to-face instruction. They
It's
have.
and that's going back to Lovecraft, like the disposable body of people of color. And I just don't want to, like I said, burn myself out. And I said, I'd rather have all or nothing, because I don't know. I just feel like it's not really fair that I have to kind of modify my community for that. So they're thinking about bringing us back with that based on the survey, but we don't. There hasn't been an agreement as far as like, okay, what safety procedures are going to be. Like we don't really know.
Like,
So we're just waiting.
Like, do they have resources for sanitation? Like,
So they're adding slowly, like gloves and sanitize and the spray to clean things for us, and throughout the day the janitors are cleaning. But we don't have procedures as far as like the tape, as far as going up one way, coming down one way. Is there going to be glass in my classroom? How does this work? Like we don't know. Like I don't have the stuff to protect me from kids. I mean, I have my face mask, but what about the kindergartners? Like that's that stage where they're just touching and exploring, and what are we gonna do?
Yes. Okay. So, all right. I want to ask you. I mean, and then we kind of started talking about COVID, but can you talk more about like how COVID has impacted you?
Well, it's like mental health more than anything. It's just like I'm always like cautious, like getting tested every like 3 weeks, just because my allergies are acting up, or if my nose is running because of the smoke or the fires. And I feel like I'm more on edge with anything. And then I feel like the social part of it, where I want to hang out with my friends, but some people are more restricted with their staying in place orders, or some are like, oh, I just got tested too, or as long as we can be distant, we can hang out. But I need that interaction with people. Like I haven't, like you're my first adult I get to talk to all day. So I want to keep talking, but I feel like I'm losing that. So when I'm on the screen with children, I mean, at least I'm able to, talk and be with them, but I'm missing that self-care as well, as far as, talking to other colleagues, because I mean, I'm working on campus, but everybody else is in their classroom, so we don't get to, go
Interact.
over and mingle. So definitely taking a toll on my mental health,
Yeah.
if anything.
And then um so when you went online last time, did you actually have, and I know you spoke about how sometimes some of the students don't have good access to, so how has that been like with the internet access?
Uh, it's a lot. And once again, we do a morning greeting every day where there's a script. So it's like, good morning, Amina. And then Amina says, good morning, Mr. Reed. How are you? I am fine. I am fine. How about yourself? And you say, oh, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. And then you pass it. We do that every day. And if the kid's Wi-Fi is like lagging, or if it totally derails like that interaction, or like they're really they've been competitive now, like they want to beat their record, they want to work together as a team to do it. And if that kid's Wi-Fi the day isn't as strong, then it just the kids are they're trying their best to support their peer, but they also know like, okay, like so and so's Wi-Fi is not working today, so we have to put a stop on the timer and then call somebody else. Then maybe when we get back to them, we can. So it throws off our flow a little bit, if anything. And I have to totally, once again, be responsive. All right, just type your answer in the chat, or okay, I'm gonna put you in the waiting room really quick, and I got to bring you back in because it's really laggy. Like it's so much I have to think about, like IT. I'm doing like social emotional learning, IT, PE, checking for understanding, all within like 2 to 5 minutes. I'm doing all of that. And it's a lot. It's a lot to troubleshoot Wi-Fi or to get it smooth again. And so I don't know, to answer that, like it's exhausting because I can't. It's a swan on water. Like it to everybody else, like, yeah, oh yeah, Mr. Reed's got it figured out. Those kids are, but underwater, them feet are pedaling. They're pedaling, but the kids can never see that. They can never see.
Wow.
If I do make a mistake, I go, oh, Mr. Reed just forgot to share a screen. Oh, there we go. Oh, I wonder why that's not showing. Oh, well, we'll try it like this. Oh, there it is. But instead, I'm like, why isn't this working? I just did this. But they can't see that.
That's okay. Okay, so
as the tears go down my face,
all right, so you talked. I think you told me that you did a professional development for. Well, part of the first question I have is like, how I know that you did an inventory. So how were you able to reach out to students and find out like what their needs were? And then the second part is, can you talk a little about what training you've been doing around professional development with technology and being culturally responsive?
Yes, at the beginning of the year, there's, we always do surveys, hey parents, what's your child's favorite color, and those kind of surveys. And I mean that's great for get relationship building and connecting family and school. At the same time, I feel like after COVID, it's more as you were saying, collectivist, like versus like I'm the knower of all knowledge. Like we have to work together here. So a lot of the questions were like, how are you with technology? What, do you have any technology needs that you would, if you would like help, let me know. But I didn't want to come off promoting saviorism, like, oh, you said that you need resources. I'm in it. It's like, no. I just said that I might need resources. I'll let you know. So the parents at least were able to be open with me, and if they needed help, I could provide it. But I just didn't jump to conclusions and assume that they needed help just because they put they need, they're having a hard time. I said, if you have any questions or concerns, or if you would like to talk, please let me know. And they did if they wanted to. But this survey was just to me to get a sense of the climate, of the parents, because if you really think about it, I'm zooming into their homes. So it's different from like you're in my class. Like we're like in this like hybrid of a classroom space where like we are learning from the home, which if you really think about it, that's where learning really begins for a child, in the home.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get a sense of that before I dug a little deeper and really structured the way I structured my class, as far as like doing the morning routines, doing the morning message, and our little community, but like all of that was very intentional based off of that survey. It wasn't just like, oh, this is what we do in normal school. I'm like, no, this is different. This is not normal. So I got to adjust to the parents and the social emotional well-being of those kids. So that's how I really use that survey to drive my community, my social emotional part in building of the children. And so from there, I realized, you know what, I think this will be helpful for other teachers too. Plus, outside of this, I teach high school marching band. So I work with a lot of bands around California, and it's really hard for them too, because they can't march. Like, we can't compete. So what are we going to do? Like right now, bands still can't play outside in California. So they're trying to figure out what can we do with this. I mean, yes, they're marching, but they're missing that part of music that brings us together. You have your part, I have my part on the trumpet. Okay, we're going to play this at the same time. Like, they're missing that part that brings them together with music. So throughout the summer, we did a lot of getting them ready for the fall. What is the fall? What might the fall look like? How are you going to bring your members together? So I said, okay, I can use all of this instruction to help me with my third graders and other teachers. So from there, I started to put that together, and there was a request for professional developments. So I said, okay, well, I know that the way I've been structuring my summer camps can be a good model for the classroom as well. So I took that model as far as like having that morning message, having the community norms and access needs. And I knew it more than anything, access needs would be important. Like, we talk about community norms and step up, step back, show respect, but access needs, like, what do you need in order to access this material? So one kid in the summer sessions, if it's possible for us to have subtitles, because sometimes I'm hard of hearing, so that would help me. And so we got subtitles. Or can we take breaks every 10 minutes because XYZ? I'm like, sure, if that's what you need to access this, we're going to do it, which is once again another form of being responsive to the people that you're teaching. And so the first session I taught, it had about 60 people, about 60, and just talking about ways to build community and supporting student agency. And then I presented again later in the summer, and it got up to around 70, close to 100, because the first session went really well, because I was just being really explicit and direct with these skills that I'm teaching teachers. It wasn't an overload of technology, because let's be honest, like, it's just stressful learning all this stuff. You got to be a DJ behind this thing. You're going from Shania Twain to Beyonce to Celine Dion to Mac Dre. You've got to be smooth with that, because there's people on the outskirts who aren't dancing. So how do you get them to the middle of the dance floor? You got to find that comic. Everybody knows Happy Birthday. Everybody knows that. That's my jam. Let's play that. Everybody knows Happy Birthday. So you at least got to find a common ground to get them. So that's where I really wanted to focus on, like, the stuff that I learned as a credential candidate with the morning message and equity and that structure, the routine, so everybody knows what's going on. It's not just changing, because the kids are already experiencing that right now in the world. We're all experiencing an ever-changing world, but at least I can have some form of consistency in this classroom space virtually. And so the most recent one, I was chosen to speak in front of 300 plus educators and principals at our district PD. And so at this one, I really wanted to focus on agency and relationships, because I felt a lot of teachers were discouraged behind all this technology and getting all, Pear Deck, Jamboard, all of this stuff. And I was like, you know what? I talked to my fifth grade teacher about this, and she was like, you know what? It's just a lot, Marvin, with all of this. And I think we need to go back to what we went into this profession, for, and that was relationships. And I thought, I was like, yeah, we went into this because we enjoy building relationships with children. And that's what we need to go back to. It's like, this technology, like, that shouldn't, take away from how you teach in this space, the physical space. But you're good. I was like, some of y'all have a master's at relationships with children. Use that. And the question is, well, how do I get kids to keep their screens on? They keep turning off. It's like, it's as simple as saying, Charlie, what are you eating, Charlie? And oh, I'm eating oatmeal. And then Charlie shows his oatmeal on the camera, and everybody's like, oh, I'm also eating. And everybody wants to be part of the conversation, because you've validated them. Or I'm like, is that a Beyonce post from the background, Aaliyah? And she says, yeah, I went to the concert with my mom. I'm like, and then now Aaliyah's camera's on, because I validated what's in her space, in her learning space. It's nuance. It's nuance. It has nothing to do with technology. It's just the nuance of things. And I even tested this in the PD. There was like 300 people on the screen, and I'm like, what y'all eat for breakfast? And everybody's like shouting out and just typing in the chat. I was like, if you as grown adults are excited to share with me what you just had, what y'all had for breakfast, imagine how an 8-year-old child feels when I ask what you have for breakfast. It's like, it's little things like that. Don't focus so much on adding more technology to the classroom. Go back to listening to learn, versus listen to respond to those children.
That's
Listen to them. They just want somebody to talk to. A lot of these spaces that I'm seeing, they're just stuck there. The parents are doing their thing and the kids are in this room by themselves. And like they're expected, Mr. Reed or whoever is there to be there for them. But if you're just teaching curriculum, not listening to them, those screens are going to be off
yeah.
because they're going to take a nap because they don't feel like you're there for them.
Hmm.
So I think it's little things like that as far as just validating what's in their learning space right now, listening to learn, and just once again, how do you, build that agency with kids where it's like they have a say in, this learning. Like literally for Spirit Week, which is next week, so my birthday week, they've decided that they want to do, crazy hair day on Monday, drawing day on Tuesday. Like they've planned out the whole schedule. They voted, and I put it there, and they had a say in their education
That's
versus, well, it's Halloween, we don't know what we're gonna do, so we'll just keep learning. It's like, well, yeah, we're gonna have a little fun. Y'all been working hard for this past few months, so let's take a little break. We'll still keep learning, but let's make it fun.
that's
Y'all get
awesome.
to vote. What do y'all want to do? And they just put it on Google Docs, like, oh, can we do this? And I was like, okay, there's a list, but y'all get to vote because we're talking about voting. And while it's one thing to say, you want change, but if you don't vote, there's also electoral vote we talked about. But anyway, if you don't vote, then you can't get mad for whatever happens. So they all voted and they were really happy.
So that's a good transition because I was going to ask you about voting. And have you voted already? Do you have a plan? Are you
Yes,
voting early?
I did vote early. I have my sticker over there. It's in my little class shrine. But I wanted to get the kids excited too. So I had like my practice ballot, the book that has like how to vote, and I had my actual ballot. And I was like, all right, parents back there, if you're listening, I was like, make sure that I'm really trying to spice it up. Like, this is what it looks like. I'm on my document camera showing them like the practice ballot, what it looks like to vote and who you want to vote for and like what does it mean. So I really wanted to provide that, once again, that access, because I'll be honest, like I didn't really know how to, like, there's one thing to vote, but do you know how to vote? It's a difference.
Right.
It's
Right.
one thing voting, but do you know how to? And like, what are your beliefs and do they match like what you support? So I really wanted them to understand that. And
Exactly.
so once I turned in my ballot, I showed them, I was like, had somebody take a picture in Berkeley, like I'm turning in my ballot. And that was a part of our morning message. And I asked the parents, like, did y'all vote? And it was like, we're working on it. I was like, y'all better get it in, and I was like, remind your parents to vote, vote. And so but this funny question is like, who are you voting for? And I got it, separation. And I was like, well, I can't tell you, but they're like, we already know who you're gonna. I was like, okay, then why'd you ask that if you know I'm gonna vote for her? But I just want to make it fun. And it's like, yes, it's a scary thing. It's scary. This is a scary election. It's
It is
very
very
scary.
scary.
And like, as I live in Walnut Creek, and it's a little red over there. Something it's a little red, But and so I was having ice cream on Saturday, and this is a side story. But as I'm eating there, I'm thinking, I'm having a nice self-care day, and there's a black Dodge truck with two flags. One flag, it had a Blue Lives Matter, and the other side it had an American flag, and the radio's blasting. And I was like, what and is this normal? Like, what is this? I love America, but God, I don't know. I can't do it. So it's a little scary. It's a little scary. But I just want to make sure that I inspire them. And I'm always saying, you are the future, that our class credo, you are future college graduates and future leaders of this country. And I want you to really take that to heart. We say it every day. It's a whole class credo. And I want to instill hope in these kids.
But I want to get back to that question of living in a place that's conservative and also working in a place, as being that feeling of that do you feel isolated, and how do you overcome that isolation?
It's so to answer the workplace one, it's hard. Like and I think that's the biggest thing that's driving me to get my EDD is because I feel like the teachers the teachers and administrators who are trying to give me feedback, listen, administrators, leadership, who are, they give feedback. They haven't done this before.
Mm.
And so for me as a third year teacher, even as a person of color, maybe some of the things that I do as far as like, hey, so-and-so, like if I call out a child online, I'm not ridiculing them, but it's like, there's ways to, how do I say this appropriately? Um, to be culturally responsive to my teaching. And I've always said this, and I feel this way where it's like, if a white teacher yells at her kids, she's strict. If I, as a Black man, say the same thing, it's traumatizing.
Oh my God. They tell you you're traumatizing the kids?
I don't want to say name, but it's like, well, Marvin, there's ways to, you could have said it this way, or, for when you called out so-and-so online, they really felt, I was like, well, I had gone over the expectations. We all agreed. I had the kids type a verbal chat, an agreement. And I was like, if you agree, type the word, I think I said spooky or something in the chat. So they typed the word spooky. They all agreed. And we were playing the game and two kids were goofing off, and I stopped the game. And I said, hey, y'all, like, that's not part of the expectations. And, if we can't do this, like, maybe if y'all can't meet the expectation, do I need to not play games anymore? Like, I'm just trying to have a little brain break. And then one of the children felt like his parent was there, and they felt like I was, I say, really ridiculed the child, but they felt really upset that I called them out. And so I had to meet with my administrator, and, we were trying to brainstorm other ways to figure out how can I support this child and their family's needs. But I was like, I'm all about respect. It's just a cultural expectation. I think that with all of us, like as teachers, like that's how we teach. We teach the way that we were raised. Right. And I'm not going to let somebody spit on me and pretend it's water. Like, I told you what the expectations were. That's you right. did this, and I need for you to understand that we don't do that in this community. Got it? And move forward. That's it. Yeah. So, I've been hitting those kind of walls for as far as like culturally, like I'm not okay with that. Yeah. And it's hard for me. I'm always seeking mentorship and leadership for people that look like me, because if an administrator doesn't understand the struggle of you and yeah, and it's little things like if somebody says, Marvin, I'm very fearful to give you feedback sometimes because I don't know how you're going to respond.
See, but
those things, it's hard for, like I said, it's that isolation where it's like, well, you said that, but you said that to a Black man.
Yes.
They don't get that. So I'm really trying to make a difference. And
but that's okay. So I have to say something to this, because it bothers me, and I feel like it also connects back to the conversations. I think what made us tighter and closer in our relationship was like when you were a student, and I felt that I did notice that also was happening, to you as a student, where there were things like you were actually getting your credential and getting your master's degree. And now we have a program at Sac State where everybody is getting that. But you were like a unicorn. You know what I'm saying? Actually, you were the only Black man. Actually, were you the only Black person too? No,
there was Michelle. There was Michelle. Okay, she was in Baker's cohort, I think.
You were the only Black person in my cohort for sure. And we had, and the way that it's structured is like we would have lectures where it would be all, 3 or 4 cohorts, and then.
But originally, I wasn't with you though. Originally, I wasn't.
We're not. Mm-mm. You weren't also assigned to me as your master's thesis advisor.
And they said there was no more. They said there was no more people. They're all booked. And I was like, at an institution, there's no professors here. That didn't make any sense. They're like, there's no advisors here, so you're gonna have to wait a semester. I'm like, this is a university of institution of education. There's nobody here.
I don't believe
nobody
that there was nobody there to help you. Everybody.
If I didn't advocate, if I didn't stand up for myself, it wouldn't have happened.
Actually, I think you approached me, and also
it was after the long introductions. I was like, I need help. Like, I can't just have this sitting.
And so for everybody listening, and we still do. I still have this assignment where the students have to do a long introduction of themselves and give their background, talk about their values, what made them want to be a teacher, their experiences, and talk about aspects of their identity. And Marvin presented, and he's the only Black male student in my class presenting his long introduction. And he was sharing the difficulty that he's had trying to get his master's degree. And so we talked after that. And then I was like, I can be your master's thesis advisor. And so, so then I took on that role to be his advisor, and actually his work and you obviously need to talk more about your research, but he was doing research on like Black student, and your research actually inspired me in terms of my research. The NSF grant that I have is really looking specifically about like Black teachers who are graduates of Sac State, and that was like, I was like really inspired by what you were doing, looking at like success rates of Black male students at Sac State at the time, and I'm looking at Black women. So there's a lot of similarities in like our research interests, right? But one of the things that happened was I saw that I felt like you were being, I want to say picked on, unfairly treated, let's say that, because it was like, here you are, you're getting the credential program at Sac State is a very rigorous program. A lot of people go through
Harder than grad school.
it's very tough. It's 9 months. It's really hard. And people complain just getting that. You know what I'm saying? Like about the difficulty. And you were doing that and getting a master's degree at the same time. And then people were like I think they criticized you for like having a lesson plan, missing a lesson.
Oh yeah, I missed one, but I was almost put in the 3-semester because they didn't feel I could handle it. They felt it's not for everybody. Marvin, maybe to go 3-semester would give you some time to really focus on the skills to teach. And I'm just like, what? Like, I can do this. Like, and I think, I'm not saying I'm radical. I'm really reflective, but I want to stand up for myself a little bit more, because if I didn't, once again, I will never forget. Now, this is the trauma that you can see the scene over in your head very clearly. And I remember walking to the 4th floor. There's like this conference room. And, at that time they sent me the letter saying, we'd like to meet with you. First, it was the, because once again, my master's is in higher education leadership and policy. So I knew the game. I knew the paper trails. Like, if there's an email that says, hello, I'd like to check in with you, or here we would like, is it what days you have available? We'd like to meet with you. I knew something was up. And so when I got pulled in to the meeting, we sat down and they asked me, like, do you know why we're here? And I was like, I have an understanding. I think I know why we're here. And it's like, well, we're considering putting you in the 3-semester program because you've missed a lesson plan, and it just seems like you're falling behind. And I had, like, that night, I stayed up till like 3:00 in the morning, just getting all of my lesson plans done in a binder. And I just dropped them I put them on the desk, and I was like, here's everything you need. If this is how we're going to be looking at students for a lesson plan versus how they connect with students and how they reflect and grow, then how are we as professors going to support students? Like, it goes backwards in what we've talked about, being holistic and culturally relevant and responsive. Like, this has nothing. I was like, you don't know anything about what's happening in my life. You have no idea what I've come off of to finish this master's and this credential. I was like, and so, you've been in France. You haven't even seen me teach it. You've been on vacation as my supervisor. So, like, you've never seen me connect with children. So how is this appropriate? And then I remember they were like, can you please step outside they told me to step out. And I came back in, and then they ripped up this contract and they said, you know what, you're right. We haven't seen you teach. And you know what, we need to go back to what you were saying and being, culturally responsive and practice what we preach. We apologize. I'm like, they're like, how do you feel? I was like, it's upsetting, because what about all the other people who didn't advocate for themselves?
Right. And there are a lot of people
that stuck with me.
Leave. And that's the thing too, it's that over the course of the time that I've, been in academia, I've seen so many people just walk away from it because it, like I've been using this metaphor of like, you see the scars, right? The scars of like institutionalized racism. And once you see it, once that curtain is pulled back and you see it, it's just so grotesque, right? That and to actually then have to wear that, you actually end up wearing them. You know what I mean? And that is so harmful because, and it doesn't go away, because you always know that's there. So, I am so, I'm very, very proud of you. I absolutely am. And I see how you started there, sticking up for yourself, and you've always, represented yourself in such a way to, just to share like what it means to be an educator, what it means to be a proud Black man, what it means to, represent, in such a way that, is it's just an honor, to
And just
know.
that human side, like I want others to know that, like, when you're kicked down, when it seems like the lowest of the low, and for all educators, I think that's the thing. When I did go through my life happening events, and I felt like what was happening wasn't really, besides the credential program, when life had my master's degree, I felt like in that moment I really wanted to, my dream at the time was to be an academic advisor. I really wanted to work with students, and I loved, because I was part of first year experience, I was part of ELP. I was all over higher education, just trying to get a full-time job. That was I wanted to advise students because there was no Black advisors. I was like, I want to be able to talk to these students, help them get through college, and no one was hiring me. Like I was working at CRC, Sac State, and Vice President's office, Student Life and Leadership. My resume is like almost like 3 pages long,
Wow.
and I just couldn't get a job. I currently have the resume of a student personnel assistant, which is
Mm,
like I could run a department if I wanted to. I could be a director,
wow.
but no one was hiring me. So I was like doing these job interviews and dressing for the part, and I just got burned out. And then once I applied for the credential program, I finally felt, I was in a place where I could be myself,
Yeah.
and I wasn't, like I said, literally running everywhere just for somebody to give me a slow yes and not a fast no.
Yeah.
And just to see like I said, once again, my degrees in higher ed leadership, and to see the politics of HR and all of these things, I'm just like, well, I don't know why we're not getting African Americans applying. It's like, why. I
Yeah.
was like, it's a game of HR where it's like the resume and how it's looked at for, it's just, this is a systematic thing, how it's looked at for like the points, and, oh, well, are you going to give them a point because they're working on their master's, or are you going to give them a point, this other person, a candidate, because it's done? How should we do that? Well, we got to move this candidate on, so it has to be like this. And it's like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So now as a teacher, I have K-12 experience and I have higher ed experience.
Yeah.
But I think like once I got that slow yes for my first position, it finally paid off. And I want other people to know, like, be human, be yourself, because when you are able to tell those stories to other people, and it's like, you made it through, this is how you do it, this is how you push through, this is how you network, that just makes it so much more authentic versus like, oh, I got, everything was handed to me, and this happened. It's like, no, like I've been kicked,
Yeah.
but I've had to pick myself up,
Right.
and I can't stay down. I refuse to be beaten by the system.
That's right.
So it's like right now I'm learning to facilitate the space as a person of color, but
Yeah.
I need to get this EDD to be able to lead the
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
I
So
got to be able to
I'm
lead the
gonna
space.
say, and I've heard you say this 2 or 3 times.
Ooh, there's a pattern. There's a pattern.
Because you keep referring yourself to as a person of color.
Mm,
And what I think is what is happening to you is unique to your experience as a Black man
mm,
in this world. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of the discrimination that you are talking about, even like the ones I've noticed, it wasn't just white folks or whatever. It was other people of color that are in charge that are doing that too. You know what I'm saying? And so anti-Blackness is a real phenomenon, and what happens is that when we say, we're people of color, which we are,
mm-hmm.
but then it kind of diminishes the actual reality of the mistreatment that is being targeted against us because of who we are as Black people in this world. You know what I'm saying? So, and I want you to also own the fact that, yeah, you are, as I said, you're a unicorn, not just because, you're the only Black man doing this. Why? A unicorn is a very special, unique, rare creature, one of a kind, magical. You understand? So it's not, that's why I say unicorn, not because I'm trying to say like, oh, you're just the only Black. No, because there's a lot of people, there are a lot of places where we're the only.
Yes.
Right? But it's the strength that we bring to that makes us special. You understand what I'm saying? So own that, own it because you deserve it. So,
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't get those kind of talks. I'm just like, I feel like self-talk. Like I literally have to get in my silo and I'm like, you can do this. Like, so what you gonna do?
Yeah.
Like you are doing a good job. Like but it's hard when I don't have, that collegial person to talk to where it's like the story's just, it's going in one ear, it's somewhat processed. And it's like, but Marvin, I think you're just taking it wrong. Or maybe that wasn't their intent by saying that. I'm like, but why would they use the word fearful? Like that stuck with me. It's like, just jab me in the shoulder. And I'm like, okay, like what? So those kind of things, like I'm just learning, like hopefully as a professor or as an administrator, like things that I want to look out for my educators, like simple, like I have trauma over the phrase, hey, can we check in? I just don't feel comfortable. I know it's like, well, Marvin, you need to be, take feedback. I'm like, yes, but this is different. This is different. I know I don't want to go to the principal's office. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. No. Like, hey, comma, can we check in? What if I said no? This is not a hotel. I don't want to. What would happen if I said no? Like I'd lose my job, if I just said no. But I just, versus like, hey, Marvin, I just want to let's get some coffee. Like I just want to just talk to you. Like I want to, that whole self-care part, but it's like something's wrong and we need to fix it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll meet you there at 3. Okay, I'll be there.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, I want to try to change the narrative behind a check-in. Like it's not a check-in. There's something wrong that you want to check in with me to fix versus, how are you doing?
Yeah.
What's up? Do you want to get some coffee and just like walk around Berkeley really quick?
Yeah.
But it's not like that. Yeah. So I want to do that as an administrator, hopefully. But I see myself more as a professor, like helping, teacher candidates as far as like once again, navigating the space and building those relationships with kids, because education has been flipped. And I want to be able to add to like what's happening. Like we never know when this pandemic may happen again. And maybe Zooming is going to be somewhat now into
the new normal, right?
The new normal. And so to say like I survived COVID teaching, and to bring that to the teaching field, like these are practices that are going to be to provide kids access, is what I want to do. Yeah. But as a Black person, as a Black man,
that's right.
It's different. My experiences are different, and I just want to be able to provide those experiences for people and just be validated. Like, I've had this epiphany last week, and I was like, as for all first year teachers, we have to, we get evaluated, and there's these check boxes, and I'm thinking about it now as, I had all these coaches come in to help me, and I appreciate them all, but I felt like I was the kid in like 0 period tutoring, 7th period. Like there was the math coach, literacy coach, reading coach, had the principal come in. I had all these coaches give me feedback, and I never really had the opportunity to find my jacket. That's like, right. Which one fit me? And it was like, well, that's not what Lucy Calkins does. It has to be this way. I'm like, but I'm not Lucy Calkins. Like, I'm a black guy. Like, she's a white woman. Like, I had, okay, readers, I'm going to talk to, like, I didn't want to do that. I'm like, hey, y'all see this book? It's like, what do you notice about it? There's bright pictures. Yes, we can learn a lot from the pictures to help us get meaning. Like, that's what I wanted to do, but it had to be a certain way. And if I'm thinking about the system of education, it's continuing to produce sexist, racist, homophobic, transphobic, all these phobics, phobia, excuse me, out. So there's something wrong. And I think it goes back to how we're evaluating and teaching teachers. Like, you have to be this way. And it's like this profession, it's like while we say it was built for diversity, it's like these evaluations aren't. It's like it's built for a specific teacher. You have to be the white female teacher. That's versus right. Like, well, what if? But Mr. Reed doesn't do. Yeah, I don't do that. Like that doesn't work. I don't work with me. I'm not. All right, everybody, come a little closer to me, and I'm just so no. Hey, for personal space. Let's spread out. Let's do this thing. I'm gonna be different. Yeah. So I think it's a pedagogical thing.
That's the other the other part of it, because no matter what, role you play, if the system is set up in the same way, right? So we then have to, it's like we have to purposely carve our way through. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? And make a way out of no way in a lot of cases, right? And so you can't make that way, you can't make that carving, you can't do that etching if you don't name what you're doing and you don't have the right tools for that. You know what I'm saying? So because everybody's doing whatever, culturally responsive, people of color, even like I did a training with the College of Ed on anti-racism and anti-blackness, and I asked them, like, share to interrogate the policies, practices, and procedures that push out BIPOC, right? Now, BIPOC is Black first, Indigenous person of color, right? When everybody came back with their things, they were like, well, the people of color this and the people of color that. And I was like, okay, but what about, naming, where's the Black part? You know what I'm saying? Like, because there's specific things that are happening to us that are not happening to other people. And anti-Blackness is perpetuated by folks that are of color, because white supremacy has to have an antagonist, and that's Black folks. You know what I mean? So in order for white supremacy to perpetuate, you have to have, anti-Blackness in the world. So for us to actually be able to address it, we have to name that as a reality of that's what's happening.
And that goes back to my other point of like, people are like, oh, I'm a social justice advocate. I'm just like, hold up. You're a teacher. You went into you should already be a social justice. Like, this is racial justice now. This has nothing to do with, so it's like, it's just racial justice. How are you, a teacher, gonna, break down those barriers for, we have racial justice in the classrooms? Like, it shouldn't just be, oh, I think I want to do social justice now. Like,
yes.
No, you should have already been doing that.
That's from the beginning. And also, and I got, I had this argument, and I was saying, because people were saying, well, you can do social justice. When you do social justice, you're doing anti-racism automatic. I said, that's a lie, because you could do social justice and never talk about race at all. Right. And I was like, you could talk about and especially like in these spaces, like with schools, they want to talk about feminism. Right. Because it's like more white women teachers than anybody else. So like, if it's something where it's like promoting, feminist values, then now it could be a social justice topic, and never talk about the intersectionality of it, or talk about like disability and never talk about intersectionality with it. It's like we could talk about it all day long and never talk about the fact that if I'm a Black person with a disability, I'm going to experience that disability in a different way than if I'm a white person with a disability, because we have racism in this country. So I think that's really really important. You know what I mean? It's really, really important. So, all right, last question.
Wow.
All right. So, okay, let me go. Let me look at my questions. Right? Because I was like, okay. What should teachers do to support racial justice?
Wow. There's a lot. It's a lot. I always like to think about this. Like I said, literally, this has been on my mind for so long. And it's, as the equity teacher leader, my thing is, it's time to get up. And I always compare this, like, just as a cop can suffocate a man for 8 minutes, almost 9 minutes, a teacher can do the same thing to a student all year. The same thing, because I've been teaching like this for 20 years. I'm fine. This is what I do, and this is how I do it. And it's like, well, you haven't, like, you're still reading that book, or like you haven't really changed your curriculum to adjust with these new students. As like, your kids are suffocating. Your kids are suffocating, especially our Black boys, our Black girls, and most importantly, our Black minds. They're being suffocated because they're not being able to be in a space where they can breathe, where they can see themselves. And I think, as teachers, we need to do if you're not an expert, do the research, bring in allies. We are doing those students a disservice if we say, oh, I'm going to wait till February to talk about Black history, or I could never talk about, that with my kids. I could never. I was like, well, you haven't built the space for it.
Yeah.
You have not built the space, and you have not built a relationship with the families to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Like that's what especially that's going to be the biggest excuse right now because of distance learning. If it goes that long, no one's talking about anything. No one's building the space. Like my kids know what culture. We just did culture today. They know what identity is. They know what it means to be welcoming. Like all of these social, emotional, responsive lessons to the climate is what's going to set me up to be able to have those conversations. Okay. So the teachers need to set the groundwork. We can't keep hiding things from students just because you don't feel comfortable. That's the problem. We're perpetuating this master narrative. Yeah. So what teachers need to do is you need to hashtag unlearn to learn. Yeah. Because you don't know what you don't know. Like there's so much out there that you need to unlearn to be able to. You have to unlearn to be able to get new knowledge, to be able to support these students in this climate. Because it's not, we will continue to keep doing the same thing we've always done if we don't educate ourselves and bring in people who are the experts. And I'm not saying put all the weight on, our Black boys, Black girls, Black men. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we need to educate ourselves and figure out, okay, how do I, get this curriculum as far as, and just take baby steps. Okay. Like I want my students to know their identity. Yeah. All right. Then I could talk, that's where the intersectionality, where it's like, okay, my gender pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm a Black man and I'm a dog lover. You make it for them at that age appropriate level. Yeah. And then as they get older, at least they can have a starting point. Yeah. But if you don't start that, then it's never going to be that. Like my favorite phrase, students can't be it if they don't see it.
That's right.
If I don't see myself in this picture, if I don't see myself in this scene, does it exist? That's also with imagination too. I can't imagine it. I can't paint this picture if I don't know the possibilities. Yeah. Doing it. So that's why the Black mind is so beautiful. It needs to be nourished and just taken care of because it's been through so much trauma historically. And that lives within us. Like it's just there. Like it's hard to explain, but it's there. Like you may have not like been through the time, but historically, ancestrally, like that's in your system.
That's right. Yeah.
And somebody who's not from that's not going to understand it. So you as a teacher have to be really aware of that and what you're teaching. And as simple as if you're reading a book about hair, we read the room. If there is one Black student in there, you're not going to say, let's describe what hair feels like. I was like, now you've created a learning moment to make it and cause trauma now. Yeah. Like those kind of things where you think you're doing the work, but no, that's that you're defeating the purpose. If anything, if you're trying to talk about hair, the history of hair and what does it mean? Yeah. Power behind it. You want to empower our students. Not, well, maybe I should just cut my hair because the kid said nappy hair is ugly. I want to empower you. I want to talk about the history of hair and what does it mean. Yeah. To all there's different cultures too. Yeah. But once again, I can't have those conversations if I haven't even talked about what is culture, what is identity. I can't talk about that.
That's right.
So it's got to put the groundwork in.
Yeah. All right,
Marvin. Distance learning. Yes. Curses. I'm doing it. You're doing it. It's just making sure that the kids want to see they want to log in. I want to see Mr. Reed tomorrow. That's my goal. If I can make a kid want to say that, then we're good.
You done it.
Because the relationship is built.
That's right.